today I thought I would show you guys how I've been making face masks for my work. I don't work in human healthcare, but I do work at a vet clinic, so I'm still working at the moment, which I'm really glad for. But I do want to make sure to be as safe as possible just when I'm at work, because I have to see a lot of people still, and obviously also be inside of my work building with my colleagues. And so I designed some masks. I didn't really follow a tutorial because all the ones I found, it was quite difficult to wear the masks all day. They were just really heavy. Today in this video, I was just gonna go through the process of how I make them. I just wanna let everyone know, I'm sure you've already figured this out, but these masks will not protect you from the virus. They don't make it 100% safe to go and do whatever you want, but I do think it makes it a little bit safer. So you can make these masks, obviously make sure you still wash your hands, and also don't, flip the mask inside out a million times a day. Be smart about it. I think they can help if used responsibly. So I hope you like the video. If you make this mask, let me know. It's not meant to protect you 100%. It's just lending a little extra protection, which at least for me, it makes me feel just a little bit less anxious about being out in public at the moment. So the first step in making your mask is that you need a piece of fabric that is 7 inches by 9 inches. And you can just cut those out with some pinking shears so you get these little edges, and that's just to stop it from fraying. The next step is to stitch up the short sides, so the sides that are 7 inches, and you can just use kind of a really basic stitch. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, just on the sides here with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Some people like to use more, I don't, so it's really up to you how much you use. You don't have to be too exact with your measurements. Make sure that you have the right sides facing each other when you stitch it, so that your ugly side is out right now. And then once you've stitched these sides, all you're gonna do is turn it the right way out. Here you can see I'm just turning a bunch of them inside out and ironing them to get the smooth edges. I was just finishing off this little stack of this particular colorway, but I just wanted to show you how I fold them out to be the right side out and then iron them and get them all ready to work on. So now that we've made a stack of these, we're gonna sew this edge just so that we have a nice edge for our mask. So you're just gonna fold it over like this and stitch about 1/2 inch seam. So now that all the edges of the fabric have been stitched up, I'm just going to fold it in half so that the right sides are facing each other again. So just you should be able to see your stitching line, and you're going to stitch across the corner here and then also stitch across the corner on the opposite side, and that's how you're going to create the shape of it. After we've put in these 2 darts on the, let's call them the big corners, we're going to put in another little dart, but I'll show you that in just a second. So right here, I'm just stitching across a couple of times. And again, you don't need to have exact measurements. It all depends on how you want the mask to fit, how big your nose is and things like that, and if you have bigger cheeks or not. So now that everything's stitched up, all I'm going to do is fold the mask in half again, just like this, so I get the center of the bottom of the mask, the part that's going to sit just under your chin. Because I want it to fit kind of snug, I'm just going to put a little dart in here also, which is going to help it hug your chin better so there isn't a big gap there. here I'm just folding the mask in half again to put in that, I guess I'm going to call it a chin dart. And it's really easy. You don't have to measure anything. Just, you'll get a feel for it, how big you want them to be. And I usually do mine what might be like a half or a quarter of an inch or so. It really just depends on how snug I want it to fit. A good thing to keep in mind, if you make this dart more pronounced, it's going to hug your chin more. So if you're talking a lot while you're wearing the mask, it's going to kind of pull it down from your nose. So be aware of that when you're making this dart. Now I'm just going to be using my pinking shears to cut off the corners that I don't need in my mask. And you really do want to cut these off because otherwise it'll be uncomfortable while you're wearing it. So just take them off. If you use the pinking shears, you don't really have to worry about stitching it up anymore. So I really like using these. And then there's just that little dart for your chin. And once you've cut all of these pieces off, you basically have your mask. The only thing that's left to do now is to put on the ear loops. And then I'm also going to insert these little wires, and that just means that you're able to pinch the mask around your nose so that there isn't a big gap, and it also helps with you being able to see so that the mask doesn't cover your eyes or anything like that. To create the little wire inserts, all I did was get some garden wire and some pliers so you can cut them. Check what length that you're going to need by holding your mask up to the wire, and then cut it just about an inch shorter on either side so that it can bend and fit nicely around your nose but isn't too long for the mask because you don't want it sticking out. So the ends are pretty sharp and you want to kind of put a little kink in them, and I just wrap them around the tips of the pliers. Now if you have some smaller pliers you can get a smaller loop, but I just kind of hook it around there and then squish it just to make sure that it's little and tight, just like that. And then you can actually take that end and just put it in your mask. It's got a little space right there where you did your stitch, and you just insert that. It's pretty easy. Sometimes you have to give it a little bit of a push, but it should go in really easy. And also once they're in, they can move around a little bit, but I don't think you have to really stitch them into place. You certainly can, but if you wanted to avoid that extra step, I think it's totally fine. I usually don't stitch mine into place. So like I said, for my ear loops, I'm just using bits of pantyhose that I still had at home. And it usually helps if you cut the strips about an inch or two and then roll them up, just because then you have a thicker ear loop. I did these kind of thin because I only had one pair of pantyhose at my house, and I had to do a ton of masks. And the good news is, once you're done with putting the ear loops on, you're all done with your mask and ready to try them on. much for watching my video on how to make a mask to protect yourself a little bit. If you made the mask, let me know down below in the comments. I hope this makes you at least feel a little bit safer. Even with the masks, make sure to stay away from people, wash your hands plenty, and stay at home as much as you can. I'll see you in my next video.